Hi, I'm Anthony from Sydney Backyard Veggies. We're in the middle of November and we've got the last few weeks of spring here in Sydney. And a lot of my spring garden, which I started in late August, early September, are now either ready for harvest or have just finished harvesting most of their crops. So I'm starting to look at my next planting of summer veggies. I'm looking at trying to set up a bit of a succession planting system with all my crops so that I can continue harvesting summer veggies all the way till March, April. So today I'm going to be looking at what I'm going to be doing for my staples in my garden, my corn, my cucumbers, tomatoes and beans. And I'll show you what my thoughts are around my second and third succession plantings for these crops. First off, I'm at my sweet corn patch. And this is my first planting of sweet corn for the season. I planted 40 seedlings here. The variety is called Sentinel, and I planted these up in mid-September, and I'd had raised these from seedlings. Now I'd prepared the bed originally when I planted these out. I planted the bed with blood and bone, a bit of cow manure and the like, and they've done really well. Now at this stage the plants are at that point where I'm going to be harvesting in about 2 weeks time. You can just see the ears, 1 to 2 ears per plant. The ears are just starting to dry off, so I'm expecting these plants on this side, which were planted first, to be harvested in about 2 weeks time, with the plants here ready to be harvested in 3 weeks time. At this stage, all I've been doing just to give them a bit of care is to just keep them sprayed with pyrethrum once a week, just making sure especially the ears are being picked up, because I find that you end up getting a lot of curl grubs into those ears and they will destroy it. So keeping the spray up at about once a week stage will make sure you have a clean crop. Now when this corn planting first started showing its tassels, it was time for me to start my second planting of sweet corn. And the variety I landed for to start was Max, which is another commercial grade variety. I've grown them in a few other seasons. Now when I started those seedlings, I found that I was having a lot of issue with germination, and I find that's an issue with corn, sweet corn, especially if it gets too old. They won't germinate as well. But I was able to finally get 16 seedlings germinated, and I've planted them out in this corner here. These were planted out in rows 60 centimeters apart and 30 centimeters apart within the rows, and these were planted out during the week. Now ideally I wanted to have planted these over in the main bed where I had my old broad beans, but it's just not enough seedlings germinated. I planted out these ones as is. Gonna hope that they do okay, and I should do okay in this spot. It's actually just been a really hot day today. It's about 30 degrees, so they are a little bit of struggling a little bit with the heat, and as you can just see there, just a little bit of damage, but they will bounce back from that. These plants will be ready to harvest in 8 to 10 weeks time, and because I've grown them as seedlings, they've actually got a decent start on the crop. I've ordered a new batch of seeds. This time I've ordered Sentinel, and I'm going to be planting my third planting of seeds in about 3 weeks time, and I'm going to be planting them again in this location. Once these are pulled out in about 3 weeks time, I'll have the seedlings ready to go, and I'll look at planting the first section again with another round of sweet corn. I'm hoping to get one more plant of sweet corn done, at least 1 to 2 more plants of sweet corn done before February. That way I just continually harvesting sweet corn all the way through summer. Likewise with my cucumbers, I've already started my second planting of cucumbers, and I've started based on what I'm seeing in my first planting. This is the first planting, green dragon and magpie here at the sides, and I planted these again in about mid-September. They are at the moment producing. Haven't had a harvest yet, but I'm starting to get little cucumbers, as you can just see right there, little cucumbers showing up. So I'll be harvesting the first cucumbers this week. Now for my second planting of cucumbers, I planted 2 rows here near the silver beet, and I planted 2 rows at the start of the week. So this is day 6 since I planted them out. This variety is Craig. They should germinate in about 2 to 3 more days. They do need a little bit of water. The ground is dried out a bit, but I will give them a quick water now once the sun sets. These will be ready to harvest once the main crop that I just planted, I'm just about to start harvesting, is spent. So it's that 6 to 8 weeks space in between plantings with cucumbers allows me to continue to have a harvest all the way through summer. My cucumbers will need a third round, and I'm going to be planting a third round in January. so that I can have a late season harvest to March and April. And adjacent to my cucumbers, I planted my next planting of bush beans. This is the Italian Romano. This is my second planting, and I've raised close to 200 seedlings, which I've planted out here in the first 4 rows. Now these started, I was raising these just as I was starting to harvest my first planting that I planted out near the mango tree. Started harvesting those, harvested them over 2 weeks, and now that was the time for me to plant out my next round of beans. Now these will produce in 6 weeks time. They are just starting to shoot across their next leaves, as you can just see there, and they should do pretty well in this spot. I also planted another 2 rows of jade bush beans here. Now this is my third plant of jade beans, and I've been progressively planting these across my site. Again, I'm expecting at least another flush or 2 from my main crop of beans, and in that time, once they are spent, these plants will be ready to go. And now when it comes to my tomatoes, again with my succession planting, I planted 2 batches of tomatoes in late August, and they are just starting to ripen. This is the Dankia, just starting to ripen. Planted in early August. I like to harvest them personally once they blush, as you got right there. As soon as they blush, take them off the plants. That way birds and insects can't get to them. The flush is coming fast on these tomatoes. I've got another 2 over here as well, which I will harvest. And once you start harvesting tomatoes, it's almost inevitable that you're going to have an absolute glut. So I'll be turning a lot of these into sauces and the like. My main crop of tomatoes here at the front as well is just about to start producing, and this variety is Thunder, and I did give them a weekly prune. I gave them prune yesterday actually. Got rid of a lot of the big growth and started really staking these tomatoes. These tomatoes are doing a lot better than the first tomatoes, and I am, as you can see, just starting to get a little bit of color on some of them, but they're very prolific, these ones. I'm really happy with how these tomatoes are looking, and I'm expecting a huge glut of tomatoes to come through from this crop. I'm going to be starting my next round of tomatoes this week. I'm going to be starting at least 10 to 12 seedlings, starting them in pots. I'm going to grow them out for about 3 or 4 weeks, and I will be planting them in the location of the first plant of sweet corn, which I'm about to harvest in a few weeks time. I generally plant them out in January, but I'm going to give them an early start this year, trying to get them in at the start of December and see how they produce. But the idea there is, again, wanting that second flush of tomatoes later in the season so I can continue eating fresh tomatoes from a patch. Continuing on with my succession planting, and this afternoon I'm actually going to be starting this season's ginger crop. Now we use a lot of ginger in our kitchen, and one of my gardening aims is to grow a year's supply of ginger every year for our household, but for also family's household. I have been growing ginger for the last 3 years and have had some reasonable success, but every year I am working on trying to modify my planting arrangement to see if I can get a better crop out of my plantings. I'm lucky enough to have a few ginger left over from last year's harvest, and they've just started sprouting. So what I have done is I've just cut off the bits with the sprouts showing up, the eyes, as you can just see right there, and just let them dry overnight so that the saw can dry out. And there you go, it's just healed over. I have allowed for at least a 5 centimeter section of root connected to them. That will really help them grow. And I've probably got in the order of 15 cuttings here, which I'm going to be planting out. Now when it comes to growing ginger, I'm a big believer in growing them in pots. I have tried in the ground in the past, and I've had very little success, mostly because of too much water and they seem to rot for me. But I like to use large size pots, and I'm going to be using these as a 25 centimeter pot. And for the soil mix, I like to mix some premium potting mix, 1 part to 1 part of seed raising mix, just to fluff up this soil and to bulk up the material. In addition to that, I like to add at least half a bag of cow manure to add a little bit more fertilizer and a little bit more condition to that soil. They are very hungry plants, so having more nitrogen in that soil really helps. And to increase the nitrogen levels in that mix, I add a scoop of chicken manure pellets. So now I'm just going to mix those ingredients in my wheelbarrow, really mix them over, make sure it's a proper blend, and fill up those pots to get them ready for planting. Just finished filling in those pots, and they're not, I don't need to fill them up to the top, probably about 3/4 of the way up. It doesn't need to be that deep. The soil, going to be planting each of these shoots, and what I'm going to be doing is just sitting it on the top, and I'm not going to plant it too deep. I want to be able to have these shoots just visible on the surface. So just bringing the soil across just slightly. I want that, at least that first shoot there. You want the shoots pointing upwards ideally, and I might just have that first shoot just proud of the soil. Now I will add additional soil at a later date to cover those roots well, but for now I like to have that just to show a little bit, just to make sure it is growing well. The other shoots will shoot through the soil in my experience. Just going to finish off planting out the rest of them. I've got definitely more than, I have 5 cuttings here. I want to try to put 1 cutting per pot, so I've got a few other pots that are going to fill out. I'm going to plate these out and get them ready to be watered. Just finished planting out those gingers, and I planted out 15 pots, or lay here. I put them here on my north facing side of my yard. The key here, this spot, is it gets very good morning sun, but of course my backyard, and as you can see, my backyard is just swimming in western afternoon sun. It's just too hot for gingers, so I am planning on keeping these pots here on the north side. Morning sun's great, and then in the afternoon you get a little bit of shade. Just need to give these pots just a light watering, and I'm just going to do this once a day just at the moment, just to really just give that light soaking of the soil so that the plants can start sprouting. Now you don't want to overdo the water. They're at this point now where they could potentially rot, but you want to give them enough water just to start continuing to germinate. Now these pots are all watered, and what I'll be doing is just a slight spray of water once a day, just until they start growing. And once they start putting on a few leaves, especially those first few true leaf stages, I will then start adding some liquid fertilizer once every 2 weeks to really help them produce. I'm hoping to harvest these in late July, early August next year. So I'm hoping for a bumper crop, 15 pots. Let's see how much I can end up growing. And before I wrap this video, just decided to do something a little bit different this afternoon. I've actually come to my dad's house just to come have a visit with my parents, and I'm in his garden at the moment. It's absolutely amazing. I just wanted to show you just a little bit of where his veggie garden's at. Now this is my father. He's the one that taught me everything when it comes to gardening. He's actually was just working a bit on the cucumbers at the moment, but I wanted to show you just first of all his tomatoes. Now these tomato plants were planted at the same time as I planted my tomatoes, and this variety is Araldino, and I actually raised them originally in early July, and I promised Dad he wanted to get a kind of a beefsteaks or ox heart variety. He didn't like the round circle ones, slicing varieties that I've been planting. They actually are looking amazing, like no disease in them at all. He doesn't prune as hard as me, which is a bit of a different technique. I prefer to remove a lot more of these lower leaves, but Dad likes to keep them. Good news for him as well is that his tomatoes are starting to ripen. So he picked one before. He's got a few more ripening at the moment, so looking beautiful. I find Dad's garden is north facing here, so the tomatoes do get a little bit of late afternoon shade, and I think that's really the key to growing a nice crop of tomatoes. Dad's actually just trying to get me to show you the larger tomatoes that he's got growing out of this here. They're looking, yeah, these are beautiful size. These are probably close to 400-gram tomatoes. Dad's backyard is just a duplex size block, so he's got a fair few things growing in the garden. He's got cucumbers, and again, these cucumbers are the same varieties that I grow. This is the Craig variety, the Lebanese style cucumber, the greenhouse variety. And I find it, again, they just seem to do a little bit better at Dad's place, again because it only gets morning sun, and in the afternoon they get a little bit of shade. Dad's also done the string trellis system, but he's done his a bit different. He's got a permanent structure here. Just makes it really easy for him to string up the plants. And he actually started these ones from seedlings. So yeah, it doesn't work as well in my spot, but I feel he doesn't struggle as much with spider mites here in his garden. And I think that's the bit of the difference between my patch and his patch. For such a small space, Dad's also planted a lot more other things. He's got these lima beans growing here in the corner as well. And using the trellis structure that he's got, he's going to let the lima beans climb up across the structure. And once these cucumbers are gone, he'll be able to pick his lima beans. So again, it's just squeezing in as much as he can in this small space, and it works. Dad's doing really well. It seems to harvest a lot of cucumbers and a lot of tomatoes. I did want to bring you and show you just one thing. I'm actually just planting some of this in my garden, but we also, for our food, we plant purslane, but this variety is golden purslane. It's the upright variety. It's more the cultivated variety over the ones that you grow, the ones you find grown wild in your patch. Really good eating. This is great. We use this a lot in Lebanese salads, a lot of patouche, but also you can do a specific purslane salad. This is what we grow in summer as our lettuce or our leafy green for our salads and our meals. So I started planting a few. I'll show you my ones next week in my patch, but Dad has raised these from seeds, and I took a few seedlings and planted them out. But really, just not something different that you can show you, that you can grow summer greens if you like, but just grow purslane. And to show you what else Dad's been squeezing in his yard, he's just giving you a bit of a view. He's got his big pomegranate tree. It's been in full flower. It's just finally starting to get a few pomegranates striking, which is great. And across from the pomegranate, he's got his lemon tree. This is a dwarf Eureka lemon, so it doesn't get too big, but it's, yeah, the amount of fruit he gets is huge. The amount of fruit he gets. It has a little bit of a skin disease. I forgot the disease, what it's called. I think it's a scab of some sort. We're trying to treat it with some wettable sulfur. Next season, hopefully we'll be able to clear it up. And no Lebanese backyard is complete without a grapevine. Mum uses this to make stuffed vine leaves. This is not a fruiting variety of vine, even though it does show a little bit of stuff here. It's not a fruiting variety. It's used purely to harvest the leaves, and Mum will come out every month or so, harvest the leaves, and we'll be making our Lebanese dolmadis, or we call them wara anib. So that's been here for about 6-7 years now, and we just, every season, in winter, we cut it right back, prune it all the way back to the initial growths, and then it just sprouts every year. And Mum freezes leaves, and we use it throughout the winter months. So this is just a bit of a rundown on Dad's patch. He's still got heaps of herbs, parsley, oregano, mint. It's got a lot of fruit trees in the front, olive trees and fig trees. But it's amazing how much you can squeeze in a small space in terms of production. You don't need the big backyard I have. But look, thank you very much for joining me in this video. I really appreciate the support. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me on a comment in this video or via my socials on TikTok or Instagram, or send me an email to the email address in my description notes. Thank you again for watching. I hope to see you next one.